Switched on IT is proudly brought to you by ComputerTroubleshooters, Toowoomba West, and Oz Hosting, Cloud Made Easy.
Welcome to Switched on IT. I'm Barry. This is the show where we talk about everything IT. In this show, although on PTV Channel O, we are not running a particular COVID-19 series, in this show on Switched on IT, we are trying to focus a little on some of the IT aspects of COVID-19. I have just had a discussion off air with Ray and Doug, who are currently standing by to talk to us, and we were talking about some of the opening up of some of the tourism and travel restrictions and so on. And in Australia, lots of the restrictions are being lifted now, different rates in different states. Queensland is quite a bit ahead of some of the other states. But Doug and Ray are going to talk today about the kinds of things that businesses need to do, and in particularly in the tourism sector, to ensure that customers are finding out about who you are, where you are, what's open, and what they can expect. So Doug and Ray are with us now. Hello, gents. How are you today?
Good day.
G'day, Barry.
So, Ray, talk to us about the next step in opening up from this COVID-19 lockdown.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. I think one of the things that, I've been paying attention to over the, past several months is how much the travel and tourism has been affected, mostly here in the United States, but I think overseas as well. And what we want to do today is to talk a little bit about in the recovery phase, both during this phase where we are kind of on lockdown and as we re-enter the reopening of the economy, the economies globally, what business owners can really do from a digital perspective to make sure that they have a good foundation for getting back on track in whatever this kind of new normal is, and what I mean by new normal, and maybe Doug can agree or disagree here, but my kind of new normal is that we are dealing with a different type of economic downturn since this was kind of artificially put on the businesses. And so we have some businesses who were put out of business, and they've been out of business, and now they're coming back to business, hopefully. And how they will be able to be resilient and really set themselves up for greater digital, success as we come out of this. And so I've got a couple of articles that I will share with Barry for him to put up on screen for you all to be able to link to and check out. But first, I just wanted to start off with Doug, just kind of setting the scene for everybody in terms of where are you all in Australia in terms of reopening? What's the current kind of existing situation?
Sure. The government the federal government in collaboration with the states has tabled a 3-stage reopening of Australia to go through the post-COVID, I guess, or we've got COVID under control program for opening up the economy. So we're looking at, on the 1st of June, I believe, allowing people to travel. So until recently, travel was very restricted. You had to have a good reason. You were traveling for your work, for your business, and you couldn't travel very far. There were sort of, pretty tight limits on where you could travel to. And so now that's going to be lifted. Now, the context here is interesting because in a lot of the, areas of New South Wales and Victoria, two of the bigger states that have got, quite significant regional centres that have relied very heavily on travel and tourism historically. The bushfires that Australia encountered was pretty fierce in that southeast area, and that meant that they got their revenue streams were really wiped out quite comprehensively over the summer period, and now then when they were looking to recover, we then bumped into the COVID-19 debacle, and some of these places had a flood between COVID-19 and the bushfires, so certainly getting it from all angles. And then in the COVID-19 period, when we were in lockdown, the fear was that people would travel, infected people would travel from either regional centre to regional centre as visitors, or from the city to regional centres, and bearing in mind the cities where, particularly where people were coming in off international flights and cruise ships, and where there was initially a level of infection. Therefore, the cities had, far more active cases. Australia was very concerned that we would be introducing COVID-19 into regional centres from the cities. And so it went from, we'd love you to come and visit us after the bushfires, to don't come and visit us if you're coming from a COVID-19 area, and then it was like, you actually cannot. So now we're sort of rolling that back, and we're going into a scenario where, for a lot of these small businesses, they've probably got visitors, families that have been coming to their little coastal town, or their little sort of village in the hills for years, and they now need to, in a sense, have an announcement phase where they're able to say, on this date, we're back in business. And it's a difficult situation because, each individual business, certainly they may have a contact database, some sort of, online marketing contact list, or, records, something like that. But I think there's also a role for those businesses to do something collectively for their city or town or region, and even work with local government and even their local state government representatives to make sure that there is a level of understanding and I guess, in a sense, confidence that visitors can have, that when they go to, wherever that place may be, it might be Bateman's Bay or Ulladulla, or they could be going north to, to Port Macquarie or Foster or somewhere like that, or west into Orange and beautiful places like that as well. Are they going to be welcome? And what are the standards that are going to apply? And how are the businesses going to conduct themselves? And what do they expect of the people that are visiting? So I think there's a bunch of, I guess, different protocols that we should probably table today and say these are the things that a business is going to need to consider over and above their own individual procedures in opening the business, reopening the business, and in marketing their own business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the primary vehicles that I continually talk about is your website. Your website is your single source of truth, so to speak, as it relates to what is happening in your world. And so if you are certainly in a travel and tourism area, you are going to have a single place where you are updating your clients, potential clients, and the public at large about what's going on. If you have a small B&B or a hotel or some kind of travel and tourism space, you want to make sure that you're updating your website. If you had to close because of lockdown or shutdowns, stay-at-home orders and those kinds of things, you need to make sure that you are letting people know what your reopening process is going to be. Are you going to start taking bookings? Are you going to be taking other services that might be in and around the business? The goal is to be a place where you are educating people about what can be done. And now more than ever, if you weren't able to take the ability to take bookings on your website, now's the time to start thinking about how to make that happen in the future. I think it's just imperative for everybody to be considering what you're doing, and then beyond that, because there's going to be some tentative kind of feelings, people being a little bit reticent about travel. You're going to get people who are coming from not just your local, domestic travel, but potentially international travel. If you are dealing with international travelers, you're gonna have some people who are concerned about coming and being infected in a foreign place. So how are you going to not only institute proper precautions to protect your employees and staff, but how are you going to communicate how you are going to protect consumers? You need to make sure that you are posting on your website appropriate video and visual images and text that lets them know what we're doing, how we're doing it on the property, to make sure that the safety of staff and guests are of utmost importance. That's not only the right thing to do, but it's also the right messaging to have around the business right now. You need to have probably more personalization of the website content, especially in travel and tourism. People don't want to hear the same information spouted across the whole website. They want a tailored experience. If I'm coming for holiday and I want to have a great experience, you need a personalized website experience for those people. Now is the time to invest in that website customer segmentation and making sure that you're using the technologies available today to be able to create that experience. So we're going to see, after everything kind of went on hold during this period, to once these restrictions are lifted and everybody is kind of coming back into the recovery phase, how you are putting out those special offers and packages again on the website to make sure that you are driving people to the place where they can book and reserve their restaurant stay, the restaurant meal, their hotel stay, and so on and so forth, so that people have a central place to experience your brand. And there's no place better to put forward your brand than on a website, a place. It's kind of like your owned home. You want to basically have your home where everybody can come and experience the brand, and you need to have that set up and ready for people on this other side of the pandemic. Doug, what are your thoughts around the importance of, say, cancellation policies and advertising around the recovery process for folks?
Well, I'll deal with the first one. With cancellation policies, I think it's important that whatever policies that the business has, that they're very clearly documented and clearly explained, and they live up to them. I mean, I think we all understand that if there's a late cancellation, that can completely defeat the ability of the business to get a replacement booking in there. So it's pretty tough when somebody might have a busy weekend booked and then they cancel it at the last minute if you're offering accommodation or restaurant bookings as well. That can be quite disastrous for the business. So I think at the moment, particularly when there's social distancing, it's really important that the businesses themselves protect themselves. So, for example, if you can only have 10 people in the restaurant, you have 2 parties of 5 book, and then 1 party of 5 doesn't turn up. That is far more devastating than it normally would be. And I think businesses need to think about taking advance deposits with bookings and making it clear that if a booking is cancelled, how much is going to be forfeited. I think at the moment that is quite fair and reasonable. I think the other things that we need to consider, before Doug and his family or Ray and his partner or Barry goes off to any of these regional centres, we can visit the website and we can see that the business itself is prepared to host us, whether they're a restaurant or accommodation or some sort of local activity, whatever that might be. But I think the other thing that we need to understand as a potential customer, and I think this is a task that the sort of travel and tourism operators in regional centres need to take on, is what is happening in terms of that entire region. So, for example, when I get there, am I going to find that all of the public toilets are closed? am I going to find that certain activities that I would normally undertake, I can't actually undertake them. So, there needs to be, I think, some kind of a, collective view in the community as to how they are going to manage their region as a destination for tourists in this sort of COVID transition period. And I think that would involve, quite a bit of discussion with local government and, potentially state government to try and map out what they're going to do. I don't know if you've observed anything like that in different parts of the states, Ray, but what's your feeling about that, and what are the things that you think they could be, coordinating their activity on?
Yeah, I think there needs to be some kind of strong partnership between the local travel and tourism boards and how they are coordinating what you're talking about here. What things are available and what things are not available, so that when people are booking, they're not canceling because they feel like, oh, well, I was going to do this and then I found out last minute that this wasn't available, or I show up and all of a sudden I have a bad experience and now I don't want to come back here in the future. So I think to some extent there needs to be a little bit more, maybe in the hotel and spa space, there may be a little bit more flexible cancellation policies. Maybe in the restaurant and restaurant side, you may have a little bit more firm policies, like you talked about, Doug. And further beyond that, I think part of it is using any ad dollars you have to communicate the both the precautions you're taking from a safety perspective, health checks and safety precautions, protocols that you're putting into place, but also advertising your cancellation policies to make sure that people know that you are going to be flexible with them in certain regards, and making sure that is going to appeal to people, especially loyal customers who may come back to your area on a regular basis but feel tentative about that. You're going to have stronger long-term goals that will be benefited if you're capable of withstanding that. Remember, this is all about understanding your margins. But if you can withstand that, then I think it's important for you to be able to put upfront the flexibility of your cancellation policies, and then obviously enforce them as you need to. The goal here is to make sure your loyal customers are being catered to, and you're easing them back into spending money with you. And then further beyond that, making sure that you are providing the appropriate kind of balance between what is open and what you're capable of doing, and putting the right kind of foot forward.
Is your computer driving you crazy? Is it slow or doing things you didn't expect? Well, having a computer crash or pick up a virus can be a complete nightmare for a business, so having someone local you can trust to get you up and running again is critical. The dedicated team of experts at ComputerTroubleshooters Toowoomba West will put your mind at ease from the moment you walk through the door, and will get your problem solved in no time, with a 100% guarantee on their work. Laptops, tablets, PCs, whatever you have, Roger and the team can fix it for you. So visit them today at 236 Bridge Street, Newtown. Can't get in to see them? No worries. Just call them on 4642 1331 and they'll come to you. Toowoomba Troubleshooters, Toowoomba West, on the web at www.computertroubleshooters.com.au/Toowoomba West.
Good morning, love to see the sunrise. Crazy Kevin on the radio.
powerfmradio.com.au. Looking for exposure for your next event or function? Take your next community event, training seminar, sports event, official opening, function, concert or exhibition live to the world with PTV Channel O and Power FM's unique live simulcast. we can turn your next local event into a worldwide sensation for a fraction of what you would expect to pay. No matter what the event, PTV Channel O and Power FM can take your message to our audience. Invite the world to your party by phoning 0431 390 920 or email feedback@ptvchannelo.com.
I will note that one of the important things that I've been talking to a lot of people about is, as I think I've noted on the show before, I'm the Google Small Business Advisor for Productivity, and so I spend a lot of time educating small businesses about Google products. And one of those areas is the Google My Business platform, which sits inside of Google Maps. And something that a lot of people don't know exists is something called Reserve with Google. And I confirmed this before we started recording, but it is available in Australia. And so what this allows you to do is, on a mobile phone, if I'm traveling to Australia, I get to Sydney, I open up my mobile phone, and inside of Google Maps, I can type in yoga, hair salon, whatever categories are available in the system, restaurant, whatever, and it will then give me the opportunity to book a table in a local restaurant, or book a haircut, or go for yoga or Pilates or a fitness class. Now, those businesses are in the directory, not because they're using a specific Google tool, a specific Google tool. There are ways in which Google is giving people that functionality, but what's actually happening is that they're using their own tool that they've implemented on their website. And there's a whole list of these that Barry will put on screen so you can go check this out. But it's called Reserve with Google, and these outside third-party software providers are integrating with Google Maps, so that on your Google My Business listing, when somebody finds your business, you will then be able to book directly on Google Maps. That is, not only book, but also, if the service requires it, pay upfront for those services. So to Doug's point, I'm not going to cancel on my yoga class because if I book, I'm paying at that moment, and so therefore I've now shelled out the cash, and so I'm more likely to show up than just reserving a table and then not showing up, or reserving a mat for yoga class and not showing up. So this can actually be a really powerful way to not only expand your ability to be found when someone's searching for you, just serendipitously, sometimes even last minute, for activities when they come to travel in your area, but also making sure that you have a strong, profitability engine for being able to do so by being able to take payment up front. But you have to have one of the third-party integration providers to be in the Reserve with Google program implemented on your website. So you need to make sure you have that function set up. So go check out the partners. If you're already using a scheduling or booking tool, many of the major providers already integrate with it. If you don't, then maybe considering switching platform providers for that booking or scheduling functionality so that you are able to be found on Google, I think is an appropriate conversation to have with yourself and your business partners and vendors and so on and so forth, because you want to really make sure that you're being found, especially at this time when a lot of people are going to be coming, and quite honestly, a lot of people use Google to find things, and when they're searching for the types of services that they would want to find in a local business district or in a travel and tourism destination, they're going to want to be able to find your business and immediately give you money for being able to access those services ahead of time. So I think it's just a really, really important thing for people to be paying attention to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think, I'm just had a look at Reserve with Google integrations, and there is a ton of them. There's, there must be 40 or 50. I'm looking at them at the moment with,
and they're adding new partners all the time. So they're working very diligently to add new partners that are more, very, very niche, smaller partners, as well as international, platforms that are really, need to be in the platform for them to be able to grow in that fashion. And that really then ends up helping you to do the web conversion optimization that you should really be thinking about on it. So, make sure that you're doing and conducting those website audits so that you can see, okay, if we implement a booking tool or a scheduling tool or some kind of appointment functionality on our website, where are the strategic places we want to have those so that we can have that level of both a unique experience, one that our competitors don't have, but also a consistent experience across all of the various channels. I want to be able to go to Google and book. I want to go to your website and I want to be able to book. I want to be able to go to your mobile website. I want to be able to book. I want to open up your mobile application. I want to be able to book. I want to open up your email. I want to be able to click on a button and be taken to a place to book, right? And that should all be a seamless experience for me across the board. And so if you can do that, then you're gonna increase conversion rates for the business across all of your web properties. And it's really important for you to be considering these things now, especially because travel and tourism had the strongest impact in terms of just being, ground to a halt. You want to be able to ease people back into booking travel, but also when they get to these areas, you want them to be able to experience a seamless one so that they don't say, well, you know what, I came post-pandemic, I really had a mediocre time. I don't really want to go back there again. Maybe it was just because of the pandemic. Maybe it's just because that's the way they always are. People are not necessarily as forgiving in their travel and tourism experiences as they are in other areas, other mindsets when they're purchasing or giving kind of latitude to spaces. You'll see some people who maybe post a hurricane or the fires that Doug was talking about earlier. They may be a little bit more generous with you because this kind of major impact has happened, but they may not be. And so I don't want to really leave it up to people's good graces to give you another chance. I want you to be able to come back strong and to have the infrastructure in place to have a really great web experience for them. And that means that they're going to not only book again, but they're going to book more often. And this is something that we have to have a coordinated perspective. Again, going back to Doug's point about working with your travel and tourism board and working with your local partners to make sure that you're all doing what you can to make sure that the experience for all visitors together are, just not excellent, but as good as they can be under the circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And I think at the moment it's just so critical for a lot of these, small regional towns and centres to really make every post a winner. They've suffered so much with a complete switch off in revenue. It would be terrific now to see that they can, if they're going to open the gate, they're going to open the doors and say, come and visit, our town, but I or any other potential guest, customer, patron is really convinced because of the messaging that it is going to be safe, convenient, very easy to use. And I think to the extent that they can coordinate their activities and so that a potential visitor to the region knows that everything is going to be open. Staff have been tested or they have COVID-19 testing laboratories. That they've got hand sanitation on, public bathrooms and facilities, and there would be a whole bunch of things as a local community they could implement to make sure that people that are coming into their region feel as though this region has really got their act together. They care about my health and safety. They've got the right measures in place. Their staff are wearing face masks. They've got all the right protocols. All their staff have signed up to COVID-19 app. In Australia, we've got the mobile app. To the extent that a region could allow their individual businesses to make, a statement along the lines of, a very comprehensive checklist of all the things they've done to make sure that we can travel to that region safely. I think they are the sorts of things that will help them make sure that they are making every post a winner, and when they get an opportunity to recover some of that revenue they lost over the peak season, that they're able to really capitalise on that opportunity and do something with it and make sure that none of us are apprehensive from a health perspective about coming there. And that doesn't mean that they're telling us the wrong message. It means that they've got the right systems and procedures in place, and they're acting cohesively as a community to manage the situation.
Exactly.
It seems to me, Doug and Ray, that the businesses that get on board and do the sorts of things that you're talking about are going to be the winners out of this ultimately. We made a visit the other day to Dolby here, not too far from Toowoomba, and one of the things that I was impressed with there was that when we went to the shopping centre, not just in the individual shops, but in the shopping centre itself, there was a hand sanitizer that you could clean your hands with when you arrived and when you left. And I thought that was a pretty good move. And if a place like Dolby were to, if everybody that's a business of any kind in Dolby is, and tourism, is on their website saying, look, if you come to Dolby and you need to go to the shopping centre, you can be pretty safe because there's hand sanitizer at the door. Not only does that tell people that there are places where they can be safe, it also tells people that the town is in this together.
Yeah, very true. I think that's a really important message that they can only do through having some kind of solid collective action as a community.
Yeah. Do you think that this is something that ought to be just left to providers to get together and do this, or is this something that councils should be pushing?
Look, I think with a lot of these areas, they do have strong local councils, and the council and the business community are very tightly entwined, and so I therefore do think it is the sort of thing that the local business community coordinates with their local government, and even to the extent that they might also coordinate it with the state government as well. I think that makes an awful lot of sense.
Yeah, and maybe this is a place where chambers need to be getting on board.
Yeah.
I mean, on this point, though, I mean, I just...
Yes, Ray?
Oh, no, finish your thought, Doug.
Yeah, I was going to say, those areas often have a local chamber of commerce, which pulls in most of the operators, and that is the ideal, in a sense, mouthpiece to engage with local government to coordinate these kinds of activities. So we've kind of got the institutions already in place, and they've worked on matters like this before. So I think it's really a matter of, it's a case of understanding where the opportunities are, what they need to coordinate on, and then just taking it from there.
Yeah, Ray, you were going to say something?
My only other thought is to just make sure that people aren't waiting for legislation in order to be able to implement safety protocols that can be good for marketing, and making sure that you are putting those things onto your web properties, putting them onto social media, and letting people know that you're doing these things. For example, I recently was working with a client that is a bed and breakfast, and it turns out that they have these beautiful brass keys that they use to unlock the doors of the rooms. They have natural antiviral properties, so they're not something that's going to have fomite transmission. They're not going to have fomites, the ability to transfer the virus because of the keys. That doesn't make any difference. They're still wiping down the keys and letting everyone know. They're actually doing videos on Instagram showing their the concierge, wiping down the keys, and exchanging them with customers using little disposable tissues, so that people feel comfortable, operating in your space. Practicing social distancing and showing social distancing in your marketing messaging. I think that's really just important here, so that everybody knows that you're doing what you can to stay safe in this environment. And it's not just about doing it; it's about messaging it, so that people are aware and can feel safe about entering those spaces. And so, I don't know what's going to happen legislatively, globally in all of these various local markets. But what I do know is that you can do things that are both good for people. It's the probably the right moral choice in terms of one side of it, but it's also good for business on the other side, which that it provides everyone with a really good understanding that you're doing the right thing for the communities, and that doesn't take politicians to get their act together for you to be able to do the right things for your business to get back on track.
It sounds too as though businesses need to be onboarding video more than they have, perhaps, because that's the sort of things that you're talking about, Ray. That's the sort of thing that lends itself really well to video rather than just graphics, where you can actually show people that this is what's happening here. And you can feel safe with us because this is the way we're doing things, and here's a demonstration of it.
Right, and it's even more important because for many people, it's actually really uncomfortable to go into an environment. It's like the first time you go into a foreign restaurant and you don't know the culture of how you're supposed to sit, how you're supposed to eat a particular type of food. If you've never touched chopsticks, for example, in an Asian restaurant, and you sit down and you feel a little bit awkward about picking up those chopsticks and stabbing the food as opposed to holding the chopsticks properly and eating with it, that can make some people so uncomfortable that they won't shop with you. And so, when you're dealing with, especially in the travel and tourism space, you want to give people an understanding of what they're going to expect, so they just show up and know how to interact. And so, for example, there's the same local B&B. They have disposable face masks that they've put into a little dispenser outside their doors, so people can just pluck it out. Right, it just has a little spring so that it's pushing the latest one out. They can pull it out, put on the mask, and then enter the property and feel safe and comfortable. They're recording videos of people doing it so that they can educate people before they show up. Hey, this is what you're going to experience. Okay, this is how you're going to experience the property. This is what we're doing to be able to make you safe. And so when you show up, you know how to act. You know that you're going to be safe doing that, which means higher compliance, but also a really strong brand message. A message that is, we care about you, we care about our guests, and we want to make sure that you have a great time. This is how you can make sure that we have a great time. And I'm sure the cruise industry is gonna learn from this, and they're gonna do the same things. You should be echoing what they're doing in terms of making sure that people have a safe but also enjoyable experience in and throughout any experience that they're going to have on property.
Doug, any final thoughts on that?
Look, I think we've covered it off very comprehensively, and I totally agree with the concept that having video footage on, clearly demonstrating what the safety protocols or the health protocols are on visiting any of these areas or regions or individual businesses. I think it's all about reassuring people and making sure that when the gate opens, they're going to get people through the door as quickly as possible and capitalise on the revenue opportunity. Because I think we all appreciate it, that particularly in regional Australia, it needs that impetus. So we've got to make sure they can act on it.
Terrific. Ray Sidney-Smith and Doug Endersby, thank you for your input today. This has been another important show in the COVID-19 series, and we will catch you again next week.
Perfect. Thanks, Barry. Thanks, Ray.
You have been watching Switched on IT. This has been part of the COVID-19 series that we have been running. If you've missed any of the series or any of our shows for that matter, Don't forget that you can go and pick any of them up on video on demand on our site. Also, don't forget that we are still running our virtual TRL footy show. That goes to air on Wednesday nights. And that's actually a live show that's going to air live both on Facebook and on this site. And all of our past TRL shows are also available on video on demand. Be sure that if you've got any questions or anything that you would like Doug and Ray to raise on the show, please send us an email. The address is feedback@ptvchannelo.com, or leave us a message on the contact page on our website. This has been Barry for Switched on IT. We'll see you again next week.